from the city of First, Kokomo, Indiana, and Heritage Lanes in Kokomo. This is the PBA50 Security Financial Savings Bank Championship presented by Track. I'm Phil Bryler. With me once again, Tom Carter.
Once again,
and I'll tell you what, we had an exciting stepladder in Hammond and another exciting stepladder here in
this
Kokomo.
is a unique stepladder.
Yes.
Because we have people that we've never seen before. This is going to be something unusual, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, you mentioned Dale Csuhta. We haven't seen him on Extra Frame at all since 2013, last time he made a stepladder in Mooresville. And a big battle this week for Csuhta. Just barely got surprised in the match play.
Just to get here in the position round. It didn't look like he was going to make it, and all of a sudden he gets lined up, and he throws a five-bagger to make sure that he gets to the show. And he's got a bull Jack Jurek, a two-time touring champ, and he's got two senior PBA titles, the nicest guy on tour, and he's got a bull Dale he's made 3 shows before, but he's never won. And so this is, there's got to be a little bit of pressure there.
Well, and for Jurek, this is his first PBA50 Tour event of 2018, so shaking the rust off from missing a lot of the year, that's not easy.
Some things going on at home, he had to take care of, and now he's out. He's tickled to death to be here. But the winner of this match goes on to Brian Kretzer, who's got 1 PBA title, and he's the high roller king. He knows how to play,
Well, this year so far for Kretzer, almost took home the title in the Senior U.S. Open last month in Las Vegas, but Mika Koivuniemen got in his way.
Mika threw a great game that was tough to beat. Then the winner of that goes on to Hall of Famer 38-time titleist Norm Duke, and then the title match, Ryan Shafer.
And I'll tell you what, you talk about a guy that's hungry for that first PBA 50 Tour title. That is Ryan Shafer.
Yeah, Ryan Shafer's got 5 tour titles. He has 5 second places to Norm Duke, if that happens to be a title match.
Yeah, I just looked at my
and Jack Jurek
will
be leading off.
That's kind of odd. This is the 3rd week now that we might have had a phone disrupt.
At least
the
this
TV
time,
finals.
Yeah, at least this time it did it before we got on a match. And you see there, Jack Jurek, the big exhale. It's not an easy position to be in. It doesn't matter how many times you've been in there before. If you haven't made it in a year or so, the butterfly's got to be there for Jurek.
Well, he's been wanting to be out here, and he couldn't. And now he got a chance to come out. This is his first stop, and he's hungry, and he's an unbelievable player. And anybody out there watching, if you see that style, try to emulate it, because he is so smooth, so methodical to the line. It's just fun to watch.
And Csuhta taking his first shot, 44-foot Carmen Salvino pattern in use this week. And Tom, when you were out here this week, it didn't play as easy later on in the day as it did early in the block. That's for sure.
This pattern, 44 feet, but there's only 23 mils on it. It's a 3.41 to ratio, which what that means to people at home, you bowl on a 12 to 1, a 15 to 1 ratio, which means there's very little oil to the outside. There's a lot of oil in the middle. This is kind of flat. And we had new pins this week. The lanes, we used Connect oil. The lanes broke down extremely fast. And we ended up in between 5th and 6th arrow at the end of an 8-game block, and the carry is hard. I mean, you can hit the pocket. Everybody hit the pocket. Trying to get out a 10-pin was absolutely brutal, and when you made the wrong move, 7 tens popped up in your face all over.
Now we're watching Csuhta right now, and that piece of equipment he's using doesn't seem to be wanting to pick up the lane much, but it's doing the job on the back end.
Well, if you watch Dale's approach, he has a drastic approach to the right. He walks to the track area, which if you're going to pick on somebody a little bit, it's kind of like what a lot of house players do. They tend to migrate to the track, which is around 2nd arrow. And so he drifts right. And if you watch the other players, they either walk straight or they open up the lane, and here we go with the 10-pin again. And what happens is this oil, this Connect oil, is I want a quick release oil. It disappears pretty fast. And the front part of the lane is going to go. This morning, I was in the cashier's round and started out really good. And I was standing on 21 looking at 10. And by the third game, we're standing on 38, playing 23. The lanes just exploded.
And you see there Jurek going for the piece of tape. And he uses his strike ball to shoot at his 10 pins.
Well, some guys have the ability to really flatten out their wrist at the bottom of the swing to make the ball go straight, which is great, which means you have another ball in your bag, you know. For some of us that can't do that, we have to have a spare ball to get the ball down the lane. Unfortunately, some guys naturally go around the ball, which means the ball wants to hook when it hits the dry on the back end, and the ball migrates to the left, and what happens then? They move left to try to throw it at it, then they throw it in the gutter.
Jurek.
Which, if I was on Extra Frame, you might have seen that.
Down 10 early. But we saw a lot of matches in match play today where guys were down 30, 40, 50 early.
Well, Jack Jurek, and he was in like 7th place going into the position round. And it was 7 spare, 9 spare, 9 spare. And they go, oh, Jack's got to do something. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a 5-bagger.
Yep.
Then we realized that Ron Moore was struggling on the end over here, that Jack's going to go around somebody.
You see the look on Jack's face right there and knew that was out to the right. And happy he didn't leave the 10 pin with that, too.
Well, we got new pins in. They're only about a week and a half old. And you can hit them pretty solid, and they don't like to fall.
Dale Csuhta 9 senior regional titles, so he knows how to win.
That's on true, but that's on a little bit different stage. Now you're bowling for a national title. And this is the first match, and he's got obviously a ladder to climb. If you watch Dale's footwork, where he started and where he slid, he probably started on almost 30 at the dots, and he slid on like 21, 22 because he goes to. So what happens here is when the lanes dry out, especially in the front part of the lane, his ball wants to hook early, and he can't get it pushed to the right. As long as the fronts hold up, he'll be okay.
But with the seemingly aggressively shelled equipment these players are all using, is that going to happen? Is that going to happen for 4 games of a stepladder?
No, it's not. When these guys were warming up, there was, I said it down there, there's literally sawdust going down the lane. They've sanded these balls to a point where it looked like snowballs, and they were white with dust, and they're trying to open up the lane. You know, usually we didn't think about defense and bowling, but this is almost it. And if you look at the track on his ball, where that track starts, which means he goes around the ball at the bottom of the swing, so he's trying to spin the ball to get it down the lane.
And another corner pin. And
yeah.
you cannot get away with a half-pocket hit this week like Csuhta just had right there.
What was funny about this week, you could hit the pocket flush and leave a 10-pin. You would go really high flush and leave a 10-pin. Then all of a sudden, which is kind of surprising, you went really light, not even half pocket, third pocket, and you might strike and you're going, well, I can't reproduce that shot. I don't know how that's going to work. And when you tried to reproduce it, it was 2-8-10.
What is it? We know it's a lower scoring pace all week long. How does that affect the guys going in the stepladder here? Like, what did you talk to Ryan Shafer about? He's got away as the top seed. You know, does he worry about what the scoring pace is going to be in the stepladder? Did that affect his equipment selection?
No, he already knew what he was going to do. He was throwing a little bit more aggressive ball, which looked great in practice. And right at the end of his practice, the ball went high. And we knew exactly then that he was going to be switching balls to the ball that he used to lead this show. It was just a matter of the lane soaking up that oil, the ball soaking up that oil, so they could open up the lane so he could use it. It's kind of funny. You have a ball that looks good to the pocket, but the shot changes so fast, you kind of get buffaloed. You want to use that ball because, man, it striked in practice. And it striked in practice. Why is it not striking now? And the lane condition changed so drastically that it just either burned up and it lost too much energy when they hit the pins, or it wrong ball totally. You know, like Jack's using pin-up balls. A lot of guys this week, just because the back ends were so crisp and the ball wanted to change direction, they used pin-down stuff.
And Jurek, big double on the board, gets himself back into this match.
And that's a
lead.
Classic style. Open up in the backswing. He's dead solid at the pocket. He never gets his feet fast. If you watch him when he posts a shot, shoulders over the hips, you got to take a picture of that. I just showed one of the guys we were talking to before we started. He wanted to go home and work on some stuff, and I took a picture of that, and I went, that's what you need to work on. Get a great leverage point.
And Csuhta, that ball looked a little quick getting down the lane and just didn't recover.
Well, when you're playing as far right as he is, that means he's going to have to pick up the speed. And when he picks up the speed, the less chance for it to turn on the back end until that track opens up. But unfortunately, if he was in the next match, that extra speed might work. But he's in the first match.
And he's bowling a tough opponent. Both these bowlers with great position round gains to get into the stepladder. Jack Jurek took out Greg Thomas, 235 to 169. Csuhta took out Sam Ventura, 236 196. And a great run today for Sammy V.
He's throwing a revolt. It's a pin up, and he says when he gets that ball in his hand, he's very comfortable with it because obviously it does the right thing. You know, it hooks a little more than the other balls he used this week, and now it's a matter of, I hate to say it, but it's getting the corners out. This facility, a beautiful facility that Dave Small's got here. When we walked in this week, it's like, oh my God, is this nice? Unfortunately, the pins don't like us as well.
And that's been that way for a long time. The last few years on Extra Frame, we featured a regional competition from here, and there were very few 279 and higher games shot on the kids' regionals.
And he thought that ball was going to turn the corner,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. And that's the problem. Really quick, you might have to change balls and get that surface out of your hand because he's crossed like 17th arrows, took it to the break point at 10, and it just quit.
So it's using too much energy at the break point right now.
It's using too much energy early before it gets to the break point. There's nothing left.
So
Yeah.
a lot of new people in the sport, they don't realize that the ball can hook in oil. We hear 44 feet, but the ball can hook earlier than that.
Oh, yeah, especially when these guys are trying to develop a path. I mean, they're trying to, for a lack of probably a better term, a cow path. They're trying to burn a spot to where they know they have a hook spot, you know.
Well, Jurek leads by 1.
I talked to Dave Small this week, and we were talking about carry, and he goes, man, they've double-coated the phenolic pin decks. The flat gutters are up. They've done everything in the world because when he bought this place, it was notoriously hard to carry, and he's trying to make it better. But it's just a characteristic of the house. It is what it is, and it's not a bad thing. There was some great bowlers in this tournament that didn't make the cashier's round. You got guys like Brian LeClaire, Bob Learn, who was on the show last week, that didn't make the cut, which is, you would say, is impossible.
And scoring pace is relative to, if you know the pace is going to be low, sometimes you have to get the piece of equipment in your hand and get the mentality of, okay, I just got to plod along here and take advantage of 3 and 4 baggers if I can get them.
Well, you come out here and you think you're going to shoot 240 all the time, and you are not. And this is a tournament that proves that. And if you could grind out 190s when you hit that bad pair, you were good. You were really good.
Well, a prime example of that this week, Mike Diaz, his high game for 16 games of qualifying was 213, and he still earned one of the extra 8 super senior spots. That's incredible.
Well, it took, what, minus 66 or something like that to make the super senior spot. The cash spot for the round of 20, or for the top 25 was plus 98. Yep. And you're thinking plus 98 for 16 games. That's tough. And it was funny, Ed Carter was, when we had the cashier's round this morning, plus 113. And he's in this cashier's round, and he made it to the next round, but his number was minus 13. So he went 143 over in the tournament, but the 5 games in the cashier's round today, minus 13. That's how tough they were.
And Csuhta, he kind of stepped down in that one, wasn't sure he was going to make it all the way back, and it just pounds the pocket flush.
Well, basically we have a 1-pin match here, and it's just a matter, and it's been that way through the whole tournament. Nobody really, there was no 300s this week. Nobody's running away with this tournament. You got to make good shots, and you can't let it get in your head because you're going to leave corner pins, and you're going to leave 4 pins. Corner pin.
And for some reason, lane 20 all day long, we had coverage during all the match play rounds on Extra Frame on Flow Bowling today, and there were a lot of 10s on this lane.
Well, 1910 it hooked a little bit more. That was the characteristics of it than 20. But you try to make a move to carry out the 10, then you leave a 4-pin or you leave a solid 9. You know, you're like, what the devil? It's impossible. It's like trick shots.
Well, you take a look at the difference. You mentioned the scoring pace from last week at the South Shore Open to this week here in Kokomo. Last week, a 217 average was Ernie Segura Jr. Almost, 217 for Segura.
Plus 275 to make the cut.
Was 26. This week, that would have had you with a bye into the
top 8.
Into the match play.
And this week it was plus 98. And that's just the way it is out here. You can't let one week affect the next week. We're given a situation. You have to throw at it and then go with it. Now look at that. Yeah, he crossed like 17 with the arrows. Didn't really get it to the break point. He crossed like 11, and the ball just flushed up high.
But now for Jurek, he's got to think to himself, great, I got to finish this 10th frame on lane 20. I already have a couple of 10 pins and one shot that went light on. If he needs 2 in the 10th, that's not the easy lane to get the 2 in the 10th on out of the 2 on this pair.
Well, we'll see, because he hasn't struck yet on the right lane. Shoot it. He didn't even like the shot. He's walking backwards.
It almost looked like he kind of pulled it through on that shot.
Right.
We get an extra look at his follow through here shortly. And watch, it's kind of,
And he hit it and was like, oh, God, I hope that's in the right spot. And it was. That's a huge double.
Well, right now for Csuhta, 236. If he can get 2 more on the board and count, he'll advance to face Brian Kretzer in our second match.
He got the first one. It looks like he's getting a little amped because he's not really posting the shot at the line. And that could be big trouble as you get up the stepladder bowling Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I mean, we all lose our flexibility as we get older. Csuhta, 63 years of age, but it almost looks like by the time he's done with that slide, it's so long that it's hard for him to maintain the leverage on the bottom of the shot.
True. If you watch the other players and younger players, they're dead stopped at the line as they're releasing the ball.
And there it is for Csuhta.
He took it to the bank.
Stay behind the foul line, get yourself 2 pins, and you will shut out Jack Jurek. But what a week for Jurek. First week back on the PBA50 Tour in 2018.
And it makes the show.
It makes the show.
You got to like that.
And once again, just one of the all-around good guys out here on the PBA50 Tour.
Well, he was Steve Nagy Award winner twice. You know, if you haven't met Jack Jurek, he is by far the nicest guy you could ever run into.
And he's a guy that puts it's family first and bowling second. And you always have to respect that for Jack.
You pretty much got to respect that for anybody.
So Jurek's going to be taking home 5th place. He's going to finish out his game. And Dale Csuhta advancing to face Brian Kretzer in our second match here.
I just, looking at this, just kind of recap, I just think Jack stayed with the ball with a little bit too much surface too long, and the ball just lost too much energy for him. But then our next match, we got Brian Kretzer, who, as they dry up and he can move left, that's in his wheelhouse. So it'll be an exciting second match.
So the PBA50 Security Federal Savings Bank Championship presented by Track rolls on here from Dave Small's Heritage Lanes in Kokomo, Indiana.
To you, Jack, and congratulations. Okay, we're ready for match number 2. Brian is from Dayton, Ohio. He's a champion on the PBA Tour. He's a 3-time PBA Regional Tour champion, and he's made the top 5 now 3 out of his last 4 events. So he's ready. Dale Csuhta's ready. Let's give him a nice round of applause to start him up.
And
Dale Csuhta will start the match.
Tom Carter.
Yes, sir.
Brian Kretzer took an inordinate amount of time for practice.
He did.
Part of that being psychological warfare against his opponent, maybe?
It could be
experienced person in the finals?
Dale's 63, and he took a whole lot of shots over there. I mean, he could have wore him out, you know. And part of this, you hate to say it, you got to get into your opponent's head a little bit at some time. So it could have been. And if your viewers at home were watching the practice, Brian just had a heck of a time getting lined up.
Joining us in the booth for this second game of the Stepladder, proprietor here at Heritage Lanes, Dave Smallin. Dave, you've put on a heck of a show in your center once again this week, and it's a very stormy night here in Kokomo, and yet a nice crowd inside the building.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great week here. We've definitely enjoyed having the 50 tour here for the first time in Kokomo, and I think the guys enjoyed themselves here. Except for the 10-pin. There you go.
We had a great time, and I learned something earlier that Dave Small has hosted 50 PBA events. That's just insane.
13 in 1 year, actually. Kind of scary. It's something we love to do. It's something we love to give back to the sport, and a lot of joy was brought to me by these guys when I was an awkward kid growing up. So it's nice to give them a place to come and show it off.
I don't think he's grown up yet.
No, I haven't. And soft 10 to start.
There's just no way around the soft 10 here, Dave, is there?
There's just no way around a 10-pin. You watched him in practice, and he was using a lot more aggressive ball, and that wasn't working out. And he ran over and got a different ball trying to get something down the lane. And this is where I think Csuhta might have a problem with his drift to the right. That track area is burning up, and if he doesn't switch balls, he's actually going to have to pick up his speed to throw it. Now, that could hurt his carry percentage.
One of the things that we do to combat the 10-pin here is we actually use a shorter pattern. We use the same pattern in all 5 houses as far as lane condition goes. 41 feet, same volume, same everything, and here we back it off a foot. So it gives the ball a little bit of a chance to rev up faster and basically carry out the corners a little bit better. You start getting a little bit past 41, 42 feet here, and I know, Tommy, you saw it this week out there, a lot of hits that look, should have, could have, just are flat.
Oh, you're running them out thinking there's no way that's not 10 in the pit and 10-pin.
Yep, and I think if we'd have gone with a little bit shorter pattern, I think we'd have seen a little bit better carry, but
next year.
Maybe.
Maybe he wants you guys to grind it out again. You never
exactly.
Well, there's nothing wrong with grinding it out. I mean, it's nice to have a tournament where spares, because I'm old school. Obviously, I'm old. But spares were a big part of the game. And everybody wants to strike, but it's nice to have a tournament where you actually have to pick up spares,
I mean, most weeks, if you're, 92, 93% on your spares, that's a solid week.
Right.
This week, if you were 85%, 89% on your spares, that was a really good week because it was a lot of second balls thrown this week.
Oh.
A lot of second balls.
The thing about this week, which for the guys that made the cashier's round, is just keeping your head in and not getting frustrated at the fact that you're leaving corner pins,
Yep.
because you can literally kind of lose your mind. And if you watch Dale, he's still sliding on 22.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't moved left yet. And if he doesn't, I think there's going to be a huge
You just saw
problem.
the hands go up in the air going like, how did that happen? And that's got to be because of how Kretzer's aggressive bowling balls are tearing up the oil.
Right, and he hasn't moved in yet. And you got to let your ball be your guide. Your ball is telling you that this part of the lane is gone. You need to do something.
Was this a shot you can combat with more speed as it broke down?
To a certain
Same line,
extent.
more speed. Okay.
To a certain extent. Because if you threw it harder, you could hold that line, but your carry percentage might be
Went down.
Went down.
So
you felt good about yourself because you're hitting the pocket, but you're still not striking.
Gotcha.
I think the guys, as they moved in, and the guys that could get around it a little bit more, they could open up the lane, they could create a better angle entry.
Now let's see what Csuhta does on this shot.
Well, it's all tied up right now, so nothing hurt so far.
that's in. And that's why.
And this is where you start thinking, and the problem with this, and this, I shouldn't say it's a problem, but what happens is guys start really overthinking about how they're going to try to get rid of that 10-pin, and they end up making some kind of drastic move, and you end up with a 2-8-10 or a bucket or something because you're trying to do something to get the corner out.
Well, you just mentioned where he slides on the lane, 21-22. same thing on that left lane we saw in the extra look. Slid right on 21.
It's the ones who accepted the fact that the 10 pin is going to be here this week are the
Right.
ones that are out there bowling right now.
Right. You knew it was going to happen. Just pick it up.
Pick it up, move on.
Yes.
Catch that double here and there, and you were fine. Because there weren't a whole lot of strings this week. Another
No.
solid 10 pin.
And at this rate, we could see a 190 game. 9 spare all the way through.
And Jack is thinking to himself, right now.
Well, my scores were a perfect example of in qualifying. I went 3 small 200s, 3 medium. I went 92, 93, 94 in the middle games, and another 200, 2 200s. You just kept yourself in the game. Try not to get yourself mentally fried. And it's easy to do.
As a participant in both events, bigger mental grind. Senior U.S. Open this year or here? Honestly.
Here.
Because the frustrating difference between the two tournaments is the Senior U.S. Open is a lot more difficult of a pattern.
Right.
So when you got it there, you struck. Here, with it being a little bit of a smoother pattern, unfortunately, the characteristics of the house kind of took a beating on a lot of the guys.
So he's
That's a better shot.
that was way more gooder.
That was mo better.
That was way more gooder. He moved in. It crossed from my angle. Looked a little bit right around 4th arrow.
A little bit right.
And got it to the friction down lane and just let the ball work.
And it's all about speed this week.
Right.
All about speed.
This is where Dale's going to get in trouble because if the lanes are opening up like that,
he's got to go left.
He's got
to go left. See if he moved.
He slid on 23.
Oh, and it's through the nose. 6'10" this time.
But when he kind of come from the old school learning where a lot of guys really did walk towards their target, and the newer players walk left. They open up the lane. They give them more lane to play with. When you walk right, you're cutting down the lane. You're cutting your lane in half.
Hey, I walk to the right. Give me a break. Oh, wait, I'm not out there bowling anymore.
Yeah, Csuhta, you watched that extra
All right, Dale.
look, and
Come on.
He gave up on that shot before it was at the arrows.
Well,
he knew it was gone.
Yeah. You right now, I don't think you can parallel the boards through the front part of the lane. You have to go across any switch balls to a pearl. There's a start. You've got to get the ball going right out of your hand.
Now, is he going to try to play on that same line with the pearl, or is he going to move left and try to get it to bend more? That's the key.
It actually looked like he might have moved in a little bit, but the ball returns in the way. But I'm knowing the way his walk pattern is, he's pretty close to 22, 23.
And if you start look at his facial expression right now, you're starting to see that level of frustration kick in that we've seen all week, that they've got to put that thought out of their mind.
Well, what he's thinking right now is like Kretzer likes to play left, and he's striking, and I'm not there yet. And big problem is he's not there. He slid on 22. You got to be able to open up the lane, and this is where it's going to be tough. And you watch where Kretzer slides compared to, you're going to see that Kretzer's, he's picking up the front part of the lane, which is more oil on that left side. We don't have any lefties on the show. So there's still oil on the left side.
There's a pin in the gutter spinning on the back carpet there, and he's got to get rid of that pin because otherwise if a pin hits, it comes back into play, takes out the 10. It's not a valid shot.
No, that one's okay because it's still in the back end of the pit.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's not on the flat gutter. If it was on the flat gutter, it would have to be taken out.
Ah. Yeah, because it's still doing the twirl back there. Okay.
He was probably just trying to get rid of it and clear it out. Sometimes it can be a little bit of distraction, but you're only allowed 2 re-racks a game.
Right.
And that might have been a wasted re-rack. Futile effort.
If you watch him, he's walking left. He's sliding on, 30?
Oh, he's just inside the 4th row. Oh, he gets a 9 pin
So,
out. All right.
We got a guy that's sliding 7 boards deeper on the lane than Dale trying to play down and in. And that's going to be a problem. And he's taking it to 8 down lane.
How much is the difference in ball speed between the two players helping and carry for
About
Kretzer
2 miles an hour right now.
Well, I actually believe that Dale's throwing it harder.
Dale's about 16.8. Kretzer's at 14.4. Thank you, Kubik is scoring. Easy for me to read. Getting old.
Well, anytime you circle the lane, the ball is going to slow down. You're crossing more boards. It's going to slow down faster. But you're giving the ball more time to change. To change direction. Not a good break there.
Bigger change of direction than he wanted.
Well, that's not a leave we saw a tremendous amount of this week. It was a solid 9. We saw a lot
But it should be easier than picking up a 10.
I'm tired of shooting the dang 10 pin. That's all I'm going to say.
And he knew that was solid in the pocket out of his hand. But that extra movement.
Well, when you slow it down and you get it to the break point and it changes directions like his does, it's going left and never did deflect to take out the 9. The ball technically is hitting the 1, 3, 5, 9. And if it doesn't bounce off that 5 to take out the 9 and it's coming in so strong, it just drives right by it. It'll be interesting to see what Dale does because he's already standing almost left of the ball return. So he can't go any farther left in his approach. In his stance, rather. He slid on 24. That's a good thing.
4 pin this time.
You know, and that's the bad thing on the right lane when you drift to the right. You're already up next to the ball return. You're going, I'm out of room. No, you're not.
And he's probably past the age like we see sometimes on the Go Bowling PBA Tour of starting in front of the ball return and only taking 3 steps. That's a little impossible for somebody like Dale.
Well, you know, it would take some practice, you know. And
reminds me of a conversation, Mr. Brylow, that we had one day right here.
You know, getting in front of the ball return, visually the lane looks totally different than where you normally stand. There he got a break.
Hit him thin and watch him spin.
And for, you know, on his defense on the left lane, he can stand farther left and still drift back to the right, you know. But unfortunately, you got a bowl on both lanes.
And unfortunately for Csuhta, if it gets to the point in the 10th frame, he has to finish on lane 20 on that right lane.
Kretzer should be pretty much in the driver's seat. I mean, the lanes are kind of falling into his wheelhouse.
Yeah, he's up by 13 right now, his half of the 7th frame. And the footwork didn't look great at the foul line.
Now, a little stick. I mean, it's raining outside. Humidity gets us, and you know, we have synthetic
approaches. I'll turn the air down even more if you want.
I've been walking around with a damn jacket now.
Yeah, you just see he got to the line, a little hop step.
He's getting into that area of the lane where we haven't had as much play.
Right.
And they've sat all day.
The farther left you go, I mean, the slide area isn't broke down over there, you know. And it's the same thing if you go really far to the right. If you like to shoot your 7 pins from the right-hand corner, it's the same thing. We have a slide area that's really nice. But once you get out of that, it can be one of 2 things. It can either be really tacky or it can be really slick.
That's one thing a lot of people new to the sport of bowling might not realize sometimes, especially with synthetic approaches, is that approach conditions are a huge factor when it comes to bowling in these events.
Well, I think synthetic approaches were the advent of interchangeable soles on your bowling shoes so you could get a sole that you could slide with.
It's also been the cause of bad knees and bad backs. And, you know, we start getting older. We
Speak for yourself. Who's getting older?
You are. Super senior now.
Hey.
Well, Csuhta still plenty alive in this match. He can strike out for 234, but Kretzer's max 236.
This is a big shot for Dale. Confident shot right here.
Fell off it.
Well, here he did get left. He slid like on 25, but the ball never went right off his hand, so he paralleled the lane
Look
again.
how early that ball picked up, Tom. Because you can see where Kretzer's playing. He was trying to play. You see that ball picked up very early.
Well, yeah, and he down lane, if you look at the break point, he only hit 12, 13. And Kretzer's getting it out to 8. So the ball never had a chance.
That leaves Csuhta with a max 202. Leaves him with a 24-pin deficit, 2 frames remaining. Mandatory strike mode here for Csuhta to have any chance.
He has to strike on this shot.
There we go.
And he crossed he closer to 20 to 10 down lane because he can stand farther left and open up his angles on that left lane. On the right lane, he's kind of trapped.
Csuhta is going to make his best finish in a PBA50 Tour event since 2013 in Mooresville, North Carolina at the Miller High Life Classic. So a pretty rewarding week here in Kokomo. Nonetheless, for Csuhta.
An unsuspecting 10-pin because you know it's going to happen. Crossed like 21. He didn't get it as far right down lane. It only crossed like 10. He never really got it to the friction. But something about this pattern. 8's a good number. 7's not a bad number down lane. But if you hit like 6, you had wiggle because there's still enough conditioner outside that there's only, I mean, as far as if you talk about, you know, guys go, well, there's only supposed to be 3 units or 5 units. The graph looks like there's only 5 units of oil down lane, which is hardly nothing, but it plays like there's 10 because there's a wiggle spot.
And it looked like he didn't get all of that one at the bottom.
No.
He kind of quit a little bit on that just to try to keep the ball in play because at this point, to advance, you don't want to make a big mistake. I'd rather leave a 10-pin or a 9-pin. Why pull it and go for a 4, 9, 3, 6, 10, something to that effect?
Do your trick shot on your fill shot, you know, if you're going to try to figure out something. This is all about making your spares. And
See the difference on that one, Tom? He came through that one a little bit better.
Well, I think for guys like him that like to hook it, they're just way more comfortable on the left lane.
Well, the good news for Kretzer is 7 pins, he gets through his match. Bad news is you got one of the greatest of all time waiting for you in the semifinal with Norm Duke.
Yeah, you got a 38-time titleist, a Hall of Famer, and a guy that makes a lot of shots look really easy when they're not.
And I do believe the crowd will be going crazy next game.
Kretzer going for tape. And I was going to say tape and a new ball.
We are trying something different. Well, he's going to a more aggressive surface so it slows down on the back end. It's going to burn up a little sooner, not turn the corner quite as hard on the back end. A little more control on the back end.
Always good to have option B, and especially because Kretzer's going to send the sidelines now, and not just Norm Duke coming on to get practice, but our top seed Ryan Shafer coming on to get practice as well. And that's a lot of bowling balls going down the lane while you get no chance to shoot.
We've seen that last week in the match. Bob Lerton's lined up. Those guys come over and throw 12 shots. He comes back his first 2 shots, and they go right through the face because the lanes had changed that much in 12 shots.
And back to the original ball in the 10th frame.
So people don't realize how much lanes change when guys are throwing balls. You know, league players like, oh, my shot broke down. You got 10 people on a pair. They're going to break down.
Well, after we get done here in Kokomo, we head right to another Dave Small Fun Time Center.
It's a long drive.
Yes, indeed. About
47 miles.
47 miles. Yeah. To Anderson, Indiana.
East and south. Very simple.
Dave Small's Championship Lane Classic next on the agenda for these players. And Dale Csuhta, great finish, his best finish since 2013.
It's still a great week. Anytime you make the show, it's a great week.
So Brian Kretzer battling Norm Duke in our semifinal match. I'm Phil Brillo, Tom Carter, and Dave Small will be with me for that semifinal match in this PBA50 Security Federal Savings Bank Championship momentarily.
Congratulations to Brian Kretzer and Dale Csuhta. Dale hasn't been out here in a while either. It's always great to see him. Congratulations to you, Dale. And a couple players coming on for a little more warm-up. We'll have a short intermission here while they take their warm-up shots, and we'll get the semifinal match underway. Time for the PBA Tour. He's a past PBA50 Tour Player of the Year as well. He was PBA Tour Player of the Year in '94 and 2000, and he's a PBA and USBC Hall of Famer. He's won everything. He's a PBA Triple Crown winner. Norm Duke and Brian Kretzer semifinal match. Guys, good luck.
And Kretzer will be starting this off. And, Tom, we got to see both Norm Duke and Ryan Shafer throw out practice balls while Kretzer the way on the side. And they are starting to catch fire out here on this pair.
They're burning. Like I said earlier, this oil is a little thinner. It kind of dissipates fairly fast. And the title match could be real deep. Because you got Brian now in between fourth and fifth arrow, trying to kind of heave it a little bit down the lane.
And that's something you did not see much here this week at Heritage Lanes, and that's a 4-pin getting tripped out.
Yeah, if you tripped a 4-pin this week, if you really tripped anything, you were happy. That could have been really ugly.
Norm went through a couple of pieces during practice.
Norm throwing a pearl ball, pin up, and he's just inside of fourth arrow. So it's kind of amazing. We started out watching guys playing pretty close to the second arrow, and they've already migrated 10 boards in 2 matches. And I got a feeling they're going to migrate a little bit deeper by the time the title gets here. And neither one of these guys are scared of playing left on the lane.
Just neat watching Norm's different ball motion as compared to Kretzer's. It just seems to be, I wouldn't know if the proper term is more in control, but it's definitely not as much hook.
Well, if you can get the ball to set up a little sooner and what we call flush back the pins instead of keep driving to the left, you can push those pins straight back. You're going to be in a better shape. Because if you look at it, it just kind of sets up and it quits hooking right there. It's kind of like Amuletto back in the day where it looked like it hook stopped right at the pocket and 10 back.
Kretzer looking for his first PBA Tour title.
And using 2 different balls. He just used a Code X, a dull ball on the right lane, and he used that Code Red, the pearl ball, on the left lane.
Now, he didn't throw, when he threw the Code X, he threw it on the left lane in the second ball in the 10th frame. That's gutsy to just make that move all of a sudden on the right lane.
And he's going to go back to the pearl ball on the left lane.
That's knowledge of what's in the bag right there, no doubt about
Well,
it.
you obviously know what your equipment's doing.
I think Eddie Graham's going to take full credit for that ball change. Eddie Graham's standing near the booth, keeping an eye on what Kretzer's doing on the lanes, and there's the front 3.
I think we have a match.
I think this could be the first match where it may take 230 to win.
Yeah, this could take a number.
Now, Kretzer, he does not have a full PBA 50 Tour title. 2016, when we were at Treasure Island and they had the PBA 50 World Championship, he won the Chameleon Championship there, but that only counted for a regional title.
Right.
For that event. Only the World Championship that year counted for a PBA 50 Tour title.
Oh, a slow 7-pin. Yeah, Norm throwing a hypercell fuse. It looks like, you see that ball on the shelf, and that ball is gorgeous on the shelf. It's pearl, and it's purple and silver, but he's taken the sheen off of it. And the reason you do that is so the ball, you still want it, since it's pearl, it's still going to get through the front part of the lane. But you want it to pick up in that mid lane and not be quite as jerky, flippy, turning left on the back end. So what we try to do out here is what we call control the pocket. And if you can control the pocket, you got a really good chance of striking. And I'd say Norm is controlling the pocket at this point.
Now, late 7, late 9, 2 consecutive shots. Is that going to entail a move for Norm?
I'm going to step out on a limb and go, no.
Okay. Because usually you start to see the ball drive like that, and you just kind of think to yourself, what does he got to do
Norm
to back it off?
is so good with wrist positions and releases. He might do a trick that's almost hard to see with the eye.
Yeah. Well, something that's we've seen a lot of with the naked eye this week.
Yeah.
10-pin on lane 20. Kretzer's best finish this year, Suncoast Senior U.S. Open, second place.
You see Brian talking to himself right there because you can only leave so many 10 pins, and then you start just chattering. And you've seen some guys this week, unfortunately, kind of lose their cool because they left so many, and you can't do that.
Well, that's the thing right now. You're bowling Norm Duke. Guys are starting to strike. Now, if you go back-to-back 10s, how do you keep the composure?
You don't want to give Norm any free pins because he's one of the greatest guys that's ever picked up a bowling ball.
And you see our leading qualifier, Ryan Shafer. You saw him walking around in the background. He's got to be a bundle of nerves right now, sitting around waiting for his chance to take home his first title on the PBA50 Tour.
Well, he has 5 seconds to Norm, so he's figuring if he has to bowl Norm, this is his chance for redemption. I got to get him one of these times.
And Kretzer gets the 4-pin out late again on lane 19.
That would be, I would think, a move. You know, pin up 12 o'clock. We talked about it last week with Norm. He drills every ball the same. It's just a matter of weight blocks and surfaces. He drills them with 1 ounce and 3/8 of side weight, then takes a 29/32 bit and drills it roughly about 2 inches deep to take the weight back to get. He likes to get around 3/8 side total. It's just his thing.
Just watch that ball.
I think he
roll a little different that time.
He got that a little bit inside a target down lane. I don't think he was liking the way it was flushing up. He thought he was going to leave something. You look at him as he starts his approach. And to compare it to a lot of players, he never really sets up. He's always in motion. He never really gets tense because he loosens up. His wrist never starts moving. It's not like he's locked in, then all of a sudden, boom, he locks in right there, throws a shot, and there's the classic Norm finish.
Now, you watch him get under that ball. You watch that elbow kind of crook under the ball, almost Tommy Jones, like obviously not to the amount that Tommy Jones does, but he did that on that shot, and it looked like he had a little more circle to it than lane 20.
And you watch the guys that hook the ball a lot, they use a little bit of elbow, but at the point of release, that arm straightens out. It's kind of like snapping a whip. It gives you some more revs at the bottom of the swing and allows the ball to rev up a little harder, so it's going to turn the corner a little harder on the back end. When you get deep, deep meaning standing farther left or right-hander or left-hander standing farther right, you got to get that ball to turn the corner.
Kretzer needs to stay down by 21.
That wasn't a good shot. He hopped at the line. There wasn't good leverage, and he knows it.
Take an extra look here at that shot on lane 20.
There's that hop. As soon as you hop, you tend to pull the ball left. You cannot project it to where you want to. And since Brian walks so far to the left, he walks into that kind of no-slide zone over there where it can be a little tacky.
Hooks into the 4-7, covers it up. But the deficit is huge right now after 6 frames.
Yeah, Norm with the front 6 and Brian with 2 spares. Sounds like, well, it can't be that bad, but you're bowling Norm Duke.
Yeah, 259, the Max or Kretzer would have easily won either of the first 2 matches with that score, but right now you're down by 31.
And if you look at both those balls, his code red and Duke's hypercell fuse, they're both laid out identical, just different surfaces and different cores in the ball.
7 goes late on a light hit for Kretzer. And it's a different wrist motion at the bottom.
Well,
obviously.
Yeah, Kretzer on the way down cups his wrist, then uncoils it at the bottom of the swing. Norm, if you watch him, his wrist is pretty stiff. He uses his elbow. Different way to get the ball into the roll. Norm definitely doesn't squeeze anything. All 3 of those holes in that ball are sharp. They come off the press. He dumps the dust out and throws them.
Front 7 for Norm and a commanding
This might
lead.
be the highest game shot here this week if he keeps on going.
Lee Brocious had the front 9 earlier today during a match play round 1, but then Brocious finished with 276.
Dead rock solid. I can't stress that enough. He never wavers at the line.
What's going through Ryan Shafer's mind right now as he's watching all these strikes get thrown on this pair? Does that change his attitude coming on?
Well, it's got to get into his head a little bit, but that'll help him out a little bit.
Looked like he short-armed it.
Yeah, he didn't get through it as well.
I mean, noticeably short on the follow-through.
He jerked up on it instead of swinging through it, which anytime you lift up instead of lift out, you're going to get the ball to hook early.
Well, Kretzer with a second chance of life here, but mandatory strike mode for Kretzer to keep himself in this match.
Well, you got Ryan coming in, and he's been several times on the show for the U.S. Open, and that's the flattest pattern we have, and he's not scared of playing deep. So this probably is not scaring him any. He knows how to play left. and he's got a total different release than anybody else on the show.
Keeping the heartbeat going is Kretzer. Kretzer, a couple of good showings so far in this Midwest swing. Third place in Monticello at the River City Extreme Open, and just missed the stepladder last week in Hammond at the South Shore Open, finishing in 6th place.
Brian's been bowling good this whole swing, and like Michael Hagen. Michael was bowling good, but he had a severe toothache and had to go to the dentist this morning. He didn't feel good this morning, but he was up in the number for quite a while, you know.
And that head pin gets the brakes put on right before the 10. And you see with Kretzer shaking his head, he knows it's pretty much mathematically over.
One thing you didn't see here was a lot of messengers take out pins across the lane. It's like they had brakes on them. And if you did get a ball or a pin to roll across and hit one, it was like the pins had extra large flat bottoms. You couldn't knock one over.
Well, Norm Dutches the last 2 frames. He's at 246. He'll have the win because Kretzer's max now 208.
238 max for Kretzer. And this should be just a routine spare. 2 marks, and Norm is going to the title match. But we've seen stranger things happen with Norm in the past when we thought the title was won and 6 count popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah, the 4 through the face at the Senior Masters. And Norm, sometimes he'll drag that right foot across the approach. Is he trying to just get a little, make sure the sole's clean?
Yeah, he's really, really particular about his slide sole, because if you can't get to the line, you can't make a shot. And so he's got like a whole bag of soles and heels that he goes through. And a lot of the guys out here actually take different soles and cut them so that they have 2 to 3 different numbers of soles on their slide foot.
And this isn't exactly the world's easiest spare this week.
No. And this could be kind of upsetting here if he doesn't pick this up.
A mark here and 5 pins locks up the win.
Uh-oh. It almost looked like that ball was falling back from the angle I'm sitting at. And I'm like, oh, no. You chop that, and this is going to be all bad. That gives Kretzer a chance to come in and take it. But now the show is on to the title match.
5 pins, locks it up, puts Duke at 239.
I'm going to bet that he gets at least 5.
Doubles the 5, makes it 10.
Times 2.
And the win for Duke. And I know you're going to be talking to Ryan Shafer between matches. And what's the suggestion on what he's going to do for lane play?
For him, he's got to get in. He should be able to get the ball through the front part of the lane easier because he's got that little spin thing that he does, and the ball should get through. It's a matter of if he reads the break point just right, and hopefully we can have some conversation and make sure that he gets to the right break point and see what happens.
And once again, another great finish. 3 finishes in the top 6 here in the last 3 events on the PBA50 Tour for Brian Kretzer. And it's going to be a battle for the championship match. Norm Duke taking on our top seed, Ryan Shafer. Shafer getting his practice, and we'll be back with that championship match in the PBA50 Security Financial Federal Bank Championship after this break.
Ryan Shafer's going to come on for 8 shots. 8 shots for Ryan, and we'll get the championship match, the PBA50 title right here in Kokomo. Let's give them a nice send-off to start them up.
And the battle for the inaugural championship here in Kokomo and the PBA50 Security Federal Savings Bank Championship presented by Track. Norm Duke starting things off lane 19.
The lanes are fried. Norm crossing way left. Did you see Norm's practice shot over there? on the left lane or right lane over there. Yeah. That was kind of funny. They stripped the lane. He threw it and it went right in the gutter.
Duke with the early strike, and Shafer, a guy that can trick it up with his different roll on the ball.
Yeah, he's using the ball he hasn't been using most of the week. It doesn't have an extra hole in it, so it should get down the lane. The big key is he's got to take it to. We talked about it. He's got to the marker. He's got like 10, 11, 12 right there. He can't get right of the marker down lane.
Well, look at how hard this ball gets back into the 1-3, and it almost chops the 3 off the 6 on a pocket hit.
Yeah. When his ball changes direction, it's changing hard because with that spin, it gets down the lane fairly easy. But once it slows down and changes directions, it just goes.
Shafer, 2 PBA50 regional titles so far in his career. 28 on the Go Bowling PBA Tour regional title circuit as well.
And he took it to 11, 12 down lane. And we talked about it. At first, he was trying to get the ball right of the marker, and it just boomeranged off of that.
And Shafer already has his best finish of this season beat as he finished 5th in the Senko Senior U.S. Open in Las Vegas.
You just never see a lot of emotion out of Ryan. He just stays right into the game. You know, he just kind of, well, he doesn't have a lot of emotion.
It depends on the moment. I think if you see him get a strike to win, you may see a cartwheel on the lane on Shafer. But right now,
Goodyear's over here telling me he's excited, and I'm going, no.
Well, right now, yeah, both the bowlers are pretty calm, but I'll tell you what, if somebody gets up first and gets that 5 or 6 bagger to get out to a 20 or 30 pin lead, you could see some running out or something for a little gamesmanship between both these guys. It's a long history between these two with Duke and Shafer.
Oh, it is. Shafer has lost 5 times to Duke. He's got 5 seconds to him, so I'm sure there's a little bit of, I got to get it back sooner or later. And they're both starting out just super strong. That's about the most emotion we've seen so far, is a little leg kick right there. They're playing the lanes totally different. Norm getting the ball way past the marker down lane.
Shafer twice the Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award winner on the Go Bowling PBA Tour back in 2009, 2013, and Big 4 at the most inopportune time.
No, that looked a little bit slower. He just didn't, even though it looks like he hit up on it, it was a little bit slower. The ball turned that corner way too hard. He's like, hold, and it didn't hold. So that puts himself in a little bit of a deficit.
You just take the count at this point in time?
You have to. At least get 2. It's kind of funny. We've seen a lot of pins bounce out from the back onto the deck. It's funny, all those pins could bounce out, but you couldn't knock the 10 down going that way.
All right, now that's 28 pins in arrears for Shafer through 3 frames. And now you just got to dump the memory bank real quick from that last shot.
You always wonder if he's thinking about those 5 seconds. Hope not. You should be clear-headed when he's up there.
Left again.
That was way left.
And a huge...
Oh, and roll the 3-pin forward.
And you see Norm just immediately get up out of his seat and just get to business at hand. You can't worry about what happens to your opponent.
That is an unusual slow roller. We've seen pins hit other pins this week, and nothing happened. That's a huge break.
Duke to get the lead out to 38.
Yeah, talk about a little area at the break point. That was left of the marker down lane. The last shot was right of the marker down lane.
Intentional? Or has he got a little room all of a sudden?
Well,
It's hard to tell.
yeah, with Norm, it's hard to tell, but I'm going to say that he's got a little room.
Looking for the front 5. 6-pin says
That ball just
"See you
looked like
tomorrow."
it flattened out down lane and never wanted to turn at all.
Yeah, that 6-pin made its way out of US 31 out of Kokomo right there.
That ball checked up and just went straight after it hit the break point.
Once again, I assume that's a fix Norm's going to make.
Well,
release.
I think he's going on the left lane. If it was an intentional what he did, I think he's going to try to get around it a little bit more to make the ball bounce on the back end. You got to get it to drive through the pins. Be interesting to think what's going through Ryan's mind right now. He's like, I've definitely got to get the ball to the right. It's got to get to the spot, and he can't throw it slow. You got to go through it. That crossed like 23 at the arrows to the break. 10 pin. It's amazing that we started out a couple games ago and the guys are playing 10. Now we're playing 25.
So imagine what it was like for these players during qualifying with 3 bowlers in a pair for 8 games. Imagine those moves that were made.
Yeah, the lanes just they just went away. This oil just disappears. It's like the oil fairies come out there and just sucked it up.
Cover for Shafer.
I wasn't so sure that he was sure about that 10 pin.
37 pins, the deficit halfway through this championship match in the PBA50 Security Federal Savings Bank Championship presented by Track. I'm Phil Brylow, with me, Tom Carter, and Ryan Shafer looking for his first PBA50 Tour title.
He's still got some time left, but he needs to put some strikes on the board. He liked it off his hand. It's amazing. It looks like he straight legs and hits up on it, and you think that ball's going to hook early, but it still gets down the lane.
Keeps the heartbeat going.
That straight leg there, if you're learning to bowl, I'd hate to say I wouldn't recommend that because I think you're going to blow a knee or a hip out after a while. But Ryan's not a very big guy. He's a little guy. Oh, the door's starting to leak open a little bit.
That was the tough part all week long, is you get the string of 3 or 4 in a row.
And the lane's changed. And you're like 4 pin, 10 pin, 10 pin, 7 10.
And that's the one thing you don't need right now. We saw Norm do that a couple of games in match play today, in match play round 2, where he'd leave a pocket 7-10 late, and it would swing the momentum back, where he'd almost lose a match and lose precious 30 bonus pins.
You talk about take the wind out of your sails when you think he threw it pretty good, and it looks like it's making the turn, hits the pocket, and all of a sudden there's 2 pins down there, and they're not even close to each other. That makes you rethink what you had for lunch.
No, Norm's finished second twice this year, USBC Senior Masters. We talked about that earlier. And he finished second to Lenny Borsch Jr. at the Villages in the PBA50 National Championship.
And if you don't think the lanes are tough, there's another guy, Lenny Borsch, that didn't make the cut this week. And it's just amazing. As great a player as Lenny is, that it was just hard to knock down pins. You couldn't get the right angle entry. That ball didn't stop. It kept on turning. So Ryan's got a chance to make a charge here, but this is kind of a must-strike situation here. He's got to put 2 on the board.
Yeah, 242 the max for Shafer. Duke pacing 228, but max of 268. Seventh frame for Duke, or for Shafer, and another wrap 10 to take the wind out of the sails.
The right lane is hooking so much. He's trying to get it down the lane, but then when you get it down there, then it's not finishing.
Just watch that ball.
That looked, as far as break point, and cross at the arrows the same as the last shot.
And you mentioned earlier in this show that there were shots where you looked like you were just flush in the pocket, and all of a sudden it was a ring 10. That didn't look like a half 10 or ring 10 shot you see at other centers.
No, you would say here it bounces out, but you can't knock it down going the other way. Makes no sense.
And we're going to have the championship match Deadwood clear shortly. We'll see how Shafer decides to handle this Deadwood clear.
Slows things down. Maybe gives him a chance to reboot.
Yep. Norm was getting ready to hop out and clear it out
I think he was going to throw a ball down there and just clear it out.
We've got the pin hook out of the back, the preferred method during championship rounds. That pin hook brought to you by AMF Manufacturing.
That could have been Dave Small on that pin hook.
And look at that. Good move there. One flip to the back, and that's all set and gone.
Technique.
Well, Shafer's going to need a lot of technique these last 3 frames to have any chance. And that technique better be throwing 5 strikes in a row.
One down, 4 to go. But you hate to say it, the shot is tough enough as it is. The carry is tough. And now you're in a situation where you need 4 strikes. Hey, granted, it can be done. But you have better dead pure every shot off your hand. Because there isn't a lot of breaks. He got the one with rolling the 3-pin forward, and that's about the only break he's going to get.
Yeah, and right now, Duke, if he just keeps filling frames with 9 spares, he can take home this title no matter what Shafer does. And why fill him with 9 spares when you can put a double on the board and really take control?
Duke with his traditional fist bump when he gets what he needs. And wasn't sure about it, but once they fell.
Split the 8 and the 9 beautifully on that shot in the 8th frame.
I think if his eyes could stare holes in you, they would when he's bowling.
That had some lag to it when he let it go.
Well,
it didn't look clean.
It did a shot before on that lane. That's when it straightened out. It just didn't make that turn. See how that ball just kind of like flattened out? And it looked like it was going to be good, and he just said, nah, I'm done. That's what friction does for you. Way too much friction.
And the bowling ball coming back up the ball return made a little bit too much noise for Norm. And he's staring at his own bowling ball right now going, what are you doing to me?
There was, and it could have been that return, there was definitely one down here on the high end. When the ball come back, it was kind of like a thud. And if it caught you in your approach, you're like, what's going on? Like somebody dropped a ball behind you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like there for Norm. And that's pretty close to lockjaws right there for Norm. Norm goes 9 out, 9 miss in the 10th frame. He's at 225. Best Shafer can do is 222.
Well, if
it's far from over, but
yeah,
Shafer's got to get all 4 here.
He needs all of them, and he needs Duke to get a big 4 or something. And
now Norm's ball just dropped out of the back right when Shafer was at the foul line. I thought maybe that might catch him out of the corner of the eye a little bit, but he didn't.
Yeah, I seen something like
watch the ball drop.
Yeah, there.
And I'm surprised it didn't throw him off a bit.
Maybe it threw him off just enough to strike. I'm going to go with that.
All right. Still hope for Shafer, but it's going to take a full punch.
And a little curtsy. Jeff's signature move over here.
Jeff Goodger giving you all the visuals here from Kokomo.
Must-strike situation. Oh! Now, the last 3 strikes have entered the pocket 3 different ways. And that's what's confusing about this place, because you think, how do you repeat that? Because they didn't try to do it in the first place.
Well, you look back at the shots in the 5th and 7th frame where you thought they were much more solid pocket shots, and they both ended up being ring 10s, putting Shafer well behind in this match.
Well, the best he can do is strike out, hope for the best, and, stranger things have happened. that one was dead flush.
Still could force Norm to get 8 on the first ball of the 10th frame
Well,
to lock up the title.
you always want to make your opponent have to show up. You know, the worst thing in the world is, as a player, is you let the guy win sitting on the bench. You know, you want to make him show up, make a shot. And literally, you want to make that shot too. You're in that position.
So Shafer knows every pin counts on this ball.
Yeah, this is just not a gimme, go up there and throw it. I need 10 back.
Because if Duke were to leave a big 4 or a big split or a washout, this finish could get interesting. For the last 5 and 222.
And he did. He threw the last 5 for 222. That 10 pin that he left in the 7th is going to come back and haunt him. That was huge.
Even the one in the 5th cost him 21 sticks because it was between 2 strikes in the 4th and 6th frames. Duke right now, 8 on the first ball, even with a miss, gives him 223. Anything less than 8 on this first ball, and
all
we've got
you
something
need.
Interesting.
That was a pretty quick approach. He didn't take a whole lot of time there.
And that's enough. He
That's
knows
enough.
it.
216. If he misses this, 225.
Wins. The inaugural champion here in Kokomo. It's going to be Norm Duke.
As we watch Norm finish up, pick up this spare, I'm sure with no problem whatsoever. He's got one more shot. Phil Brylow will be down on the lane with the interview with Norm Duke. Another great tournament for Norm Duke. Tough break for Ryan Shafer in the 7th and the 5th. He bowled a great game, but just wasn't enough against the red-hot hand of Norm Duke. Congratulations to Norm Duke. We'll go down on the approach with Phil Brylow. For Tom Carter, Jeff Goodyear, Flo Bowling. We will see you next week in Anderson, Indiana.
Presentation following. Here you go, Phil. Thank you.
Appreciate everything, John. And Norm, it's been a year since the winner's circle. Last time we saw you was in Mooresville, and this was a grind this week. What's more taxing, U.S. Open or this? It's a little different outlook on everything, but it was tough.
Yeah, you know, it was easy to get to the pocket for the most part, but getting strikes and chaining together strikes were just something else. And everyone had to endure the ring 10. I mean, it was just prominent throughout the week. No, I wouldn't compare anything to the U.S. Open. Of course, it's a 6-day grind, and you have to throw a lot more shots per game. But I can tell you this, after not winning for a whole year, I am elated to get what I would presume to be a monkey off my back. But look, we can't lose sight of the fact that the guys out here are great. And just because you're playing great doesn't mean you're going to win anything, because they're just great players, all of them. And Ryan Shafer, he led this event. He was either first or second most of the week. He played his heart out, and congratulations, Ryan, for a great performance. Sorry you couldn't take the trophy home.
What was the key to keeping up with how fast these lanes changed during the Stepladder fail? They changed faster today in the Stepladder than they did all week long.
Yeah, like we had television lights or something, you know, Phil. Normally, that's we're used to that, but when you don't have a lot of lights in the place, you don't expect it. But like the practice pair right now, we're playing second arrow. The TV pair, we're playing fourth arrow. So you got that right. They just tracked up so quickly. I don't, you know, other than having the greatest bowling balls in the history of the world with Storm, and thank you, Storm, for providing me with that. But also, you get into a rhythm of how many do you move each shot. Like, you know, when we have a 3 or 4 bagger, folks, we're not throwing the same shot typically. We are making adjustments in front of what has happened. So if you wait until you get a split, then it's a little late, especially when you're playing against the best.
Well, Norm, as you see in the masking units here, Kokomo is the city of firsts, and you are the first PBA50 champion in Kokomo here.
Listen, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. A couple of quick things. One of our greatest hosts out here, Dave Small, Dave Small, where are you? Where are you? Oh, you're right here. You'll be here in a second. Dave, thank you very much, not only for the hosting of this event, but all 50 of them. This is his 50th event to host, and we're forever in your debt. Thank you. And Linda, Lucas, could you come here, please? No, please.
Come on, Linda.
Linda is our gracious manager here at Heritage Lanes, and she has just been a beaut all week. I thought I would give her a little airtime because she's smaller than I am.
I knew there was a motive for this. Absolutely.
Oh, you're welcome, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you for everything. And lastly, you guys, the fans. I mean, without y'all, this is no fun. This is a joy when you're here. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it very, very much.
And once again, your champion here in Kokomo, Norm Duke. Let's send it back to the booth.